Friday, we always have what we call top dog. So whoever produced the most amount of premium the previous week basically gets on here, talks about whatever they want to, whether it's like what they did, something that's been inspiring them, and everything like that. And so usually I throw out a really awesome intro, and today I just get to introduce myself because last week I was the top producer on the team. So I am Devin, and I like to party. For those of you that know that reference of what it's a movie reference anyway.
Hot
So I was
rod.
trying Hot Rod. That's the one, the Andy Sandberg one. That's classic. So basically, I'm trying to think of like what was it about last week? Okay, cleared an eagle. My 20 it was 22nd and 23rd eagle, which is not like a ton for 10 years in the career. And so I'm like, what has been inspiring me? And I was turned on to this book by probably the richest person I know. Okay, we talk pretty often. I took him to Billings, and so on the last train more that we did, and we talked for about 8 hours about a whole bunch of different things. And gave me this book. Can't don't know if you guys can read this, but this is probably the best book that I listened to last year, and I'm now reading it because it was so good that I want to really digest it. But it's called JD, the 38 Letters from JD Rockefeller to His Son. So this is a different book, right? Because it's not somebody talking about, oh, this is how I did everything, and I'm so awesome. And like the regular self-help books that we read and listen to are always just like, this is what I do, and this is how I scale a business and all these things. This is straight up just a bunch of letters written from a loving father to his son, talking about life, right? Talking about business, talking about some of his history. So it's just really interesting, just the way that this guy's mind works. But I'm going to read this little excerpt here. This is on letter three, and this is titled Heaven and Hell. It's important to remember that the true reward of hard work is not the tangible benefits we receive, but rather the personal growth we experience along the way. How we perceive our work can have a profound effect on our lives. If we view it as a source of pleasure, we can feel like it can feel like heaven. However, if we view it as a burden, life can feel like a never-ending hell. By having faith and persevering through difficult times, we can transform our struggles into a source of hope and inspiration. With determination, we can overcome any obstacle and achieve our dreams. Right? This that letter, and he goes on to like talk more to his son about everything, but like that little excerpt from that part of that letter, uh it really reminds me of, okay, what happened last week. Okay, last week was easy. No other ways about it. I got lucky last week, right? I protected two families. Usually when you hit an eagle, you're going to protect about 10 families to do so. I protected two families. Both of them just happened to pick up. One picked up an elite across the board and were in their 50s. The other one was in their 50s or late 40s and picked up preferred across the board. Boom, landed an eagle. For all intents and purposes, I feel kind of guilty for the fact that like I sold so much premium. I mean, I was working hard, but I was focusing on what I focus on, right? Weekly business reviews, interviews, trying to make the machine run, like dealing with Indeed kicking us off, things like that. Like I was dealing with like a lot of other things. And the fact that like, these two things worked out perfectly in the same week, boom, get over an eagle. Okay. And so, but one of my favorite quotes of all time is that luck is a byproduct of hard work. And the harder I work, the luckier I get, right? It would be easy for me to just write it off like last week was lucky because two people, one person reached out to me, right? And the other one was a follow-up appointment. This would be really easy for me to just be like, yeah, it got lucky. However, I've been doing this for 10 years. Okay. The first family I protected, I actually tried to sell a policy in year two. They said no. I've tried 4 or 5 times to set up a group presentation there because they're right across from one of my groups that I go back to every year. They've said no every time. In fact, their son came and worked for me for about 3 months, quit. They still never bought a policy from their own son. I got a phone call from him and he's like, hey, Devin, can I meet with you? And can you keep a secret. And I said, I can keep tons of secrets, but one thing that I never do is I never keep a secret from my wife unless it's for a surprise. So if you got like a surprise for Lonnie, then we can talk. But if you got something important, you got to tell me. Uh, man, I thought you might want to save it. He's like, okay, well, we'll talk later. Turns out he gets diagnosed with cancer. He has been going back and forth to Arizona. And, they asked finally if they could look at a policy. I went, sat down with him, picked up individual for his wife on cancer, and then picked up everything else across the board because they finally understand how important it is to do what we do. Okay. The other one that reached out to me, she works at a business that I signed up the owner, tried for 2 years to get in. The owner decided to start buying it for his crew. So this is an employer funded. After 2 years, this lady is actually she's like half owner. She's like 49% owner. And she's the one that I have to go through for payroll. She's never picked up a policy, but then one of the clients that have picked it up through there used the policy, skin cancer, nothing crazy, got paid like a couple grand for skin cancer. And now she sees the value of it and she reached out to me and picked it up. Okay. But ooh, we got an echo. I met that owner 2000 2019. Okay. So it's straight up like the fact that I was willing to keep going and stay here and we just got done reading the book Chop Wood, Carry Water. The fact that like I'm just willing to go out, chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water. Yeah. One of them took like an evening appointment. I announced it on there like it was an evening late night appointment, right? But it's just one of those things where it's just like, this is a byproduct of 10 years of just going out and working as hard as I can for a very long time. Right. And the harder I work, the luckier I get. So like it again, this was one of the easiest Eagles I've ever written. It only took 10 years of hard work to make it happen. But in that 10 years, something really awesome has happened. And that very first part is that it's important to remember the true reward of hard work. It's not the tangible benefits you receive, but rather the personal growth we experience along the way. Like I can honestly say like 10 years ago was very much a different person than I am today. Right. Every single thing that I've had to do to get to the point today has been quite intentional, right? It's on the checklist, right? Like reading books very often, listen to CT audios all the time, right? Doing like the meditation and the exercising and going out and getting that 25 income producing activities, 25 true income producing activities, not just ones to hit a check mark, but actually hitting what it takes to be successful, right? Like doing those things every single day leads to a point where we're in a really awesome career where you do it long enough and you will only believe it off of faith. You'll just be like, okay, those first 2 years, the first 2 to 3 years, you'll be like, man, I'm working way harder than what this is worth. And then all of a sudden, around like 3 years, you start being like, okay, this is starting to build. I can see these renewals starting to stack up. It's starting to get pretty cool. After 5 years, you start feeling really guilty for how much money you're making versus how hard you're working. And you're still working hard. It's just that the benefits are worth it. But by the time that you finally have the money, you've also become the person that's capable of handling the money. All right. I've quoted this before, but like in a lot of salespeople have seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street. It's a great movie, but also a horrible movie at the same time. I liked the book more. And there was a moment in the book where Jordan Belfort, the main character, was sharing his remorses, where he was like talking to somebody like, I got rich too fast. And because of that, I made so many mistakes. And he's like, in those young years where you're building it and you're building it and you're building it and you're building it and you're putting in the hard work and you're developing yourself as a person, there's something that happens where you gain wisdom and you don't make all the mistakes that I made. Right. And I felt like that was a very profound part of the book that was not in the movie, where it's like, who are you becoming? And by the time that you start getting those renewals to stack up and you start, being able to swim in it like Scrooge McDuck, right? Like Are you the kind of person that can handle it? Because if you're not, it doesn't matter how much you make. There's so many people that have all the money in the world, but no, but are broke because they don't know how to handle it. Part of the process is who you become learning how to do that. But it takes time and it takes pain. So chop wood, carry water, and then view it as a process as something you enjoy. The other part of that excerpt that I really like is where he talks about like how we perceive our work has a profound impact on our lives. If we view it as a source of pleasure, it can feel like heaven. However, if we view it as a burden, life can feel like a never-ending hell. And you see these people all the time, right? You see these people that like have poverty level lifestyles, but they're happy. And you see people that have all the money in the world, but they're depressed. And some of them, like what's the number one uh like dentists, right? Dentist is one of the top five professions where people commit suicide, and those guys get paid bank, but it feels like a burden. And it's how you view it, right? This job is a hard job. Can be, unless you love doing it. And then it's easy. And when you view all the best parts about this job, like what are the best parts about this job? Uncapped income. That's something that nobody gets. The ability to build compounding renewals and be able to, as a byproduct, build wealth instead of just get rich, right? That's awesome. Being able to work with awesome people, right? Sean talked about last week how one of the things that brought him back was the fact that like you go on train moors and we get together and like everybody's giving hugs and it feels like a family, right? Or the fact that we have the best product on the market and it's not even close. The more products you look at that are supplemental insurance, you're just like, this is pathetic. People buy this garbage and we're out there, right? So you're doing something of significance with people that you love, and the world is your oyster. Like, and you get to choose your own schedule. It's that good. The only downside is that there's no floor. There's also no ceiling. Higher risk, higher reward. And it's not even that risky. You do exactly what we tell you to do, you're gonna make money. We can prove that over a very long period of time. Yeah. I'm going off on tangents now. Trying to bring them back. Okay. uh, again, easiest eagle ever. Just took 10 years of hard work to make it happen.